Hello there. My name is Mr. Oslo, and I'm here to tell you several tales that have been passed down in my family for a very long time. And who knows, maybe they're not at all fairy tales. Anyways, let's start, shall we? Tale 1. The Clockmaker's Apprentice. In the heart of an old riverside town, tucked between a cobbler's shop and a tea house, stood a narrow building with a crooked sign that read, Henrik's Timepieces. The bell above the door had long since rusted, so when the door opened, it didn't ring, it sighed. And if you listened closely in the dead of night, beneath the wind and river murmur, you could hear the ticking of hundreds of clocks inside, ticking at slightly different rhythms, like heartbeats. Henrik was an old man with thin silver hair and hands that trembled only when they were still. But when those hands worked, unscrewing clock faces, polishing gears, replacing springs, they moved like a magician's. He was known as the best clockmaker for miles. But what the townsfolk didn't know was that one of his clocks didn't measure time at all. It commanded it. Lena arrived at his shop on a winter morning when she was 16. She'd been living in the orphanage on the hill and had learned early to listen before speaking. Henrik gave her work sweeping the floors, polishing glass, and organizing the endless drawers of tiny brass cogs. He didn't talk much, but he treated her fairly. Over time, Lena learned the language of clocks. The way a soft tick meant health, a sharp one meant imbalance, and a silent one meant trouble. But there was always one room off limits, the attic. It was locked with 3 keys. Henrik wore one around his neck, hid the second in his desk, and the third she never saw. And yet sometimes late at night, Lena would hear a deep, steady tick coming from above. Unlike the others, it wasn't soft or mechanical. It was heavy, alive. Henrik often warned her, time is like water. If you break the dam, the flood won't ask permission. She didn't understand then. One fog-choked evening, Henrik left suddenly. A delivery, he muttered, though deliveries never came at night. He left one of the attic keys on the workbench. Lena stood in the workshop alone, surrounded by clocks. Their overlapping ticking felt like a language she almost understood. Her hand moved on its own toward the key. The attic door opened with a sound like a long exhale. Inside, there was only one clock. It filled half the room, black wood carved with runes, its face glowing faintly gold. Unlike the other clocks, its hands didn't move forward. They turned slowly backward, like rewinding a song. Etched beneath the face was a line in Latin, "Turn me and time obeys." Lena stepped closer. A warmth radiated from the brass hands. Her breath fogged the air. Against every instinct, she touched the dial. The world blinked. The ticking downstairs reversed. The candle behind her grew taller instead of shorter. Her shoes dried from that day's rain. She looked at the workshop clock. 3 hours earlier, she'd turned time back. Over the next week, Lena returned again and again. She learned to turn back minutes, hours, even a full day. She dropped cups only to rewind their fall. She tripped and erased it. She slipped stolen pastries into her pocket, giggling when the world reset with her still full. But the more she used the clock, the stranger things became. People she spoke with began repeating conversations. The air grew heavy. Birds stopped singing near the attic window. She started seeing herself, just for a flash, reflected in the clock face, even when she wasn't standing before it. And her reflection was always a little older. Then came the night she saw the stranger, a woman with her own face, maybe 5 years older, wearing the same blue shawl. She appeared in the attic mirror and whispered, "Do not change midnight." Lena froze. "Who are you?" The woman's smile was like a crack in glass. "You know who I am. Midnight must happen. If you touch the clock, then we will never leave." Then she was gone. Lena tried to ignore it, but that night something unusual was in the air. The river smelled sharp, metallic. All the clocks downstairs slowed to the same rhythm, and when she looked at the town square from the window, she saw people gathering around the clock tower. A loud creak echoed through the fog. The old tower was crumbling. She ran through the streets, breath burning in her chest. She saw a loose beam trembling at the tower's base. She knew what was about to happen. If she just turned the attic clock back again, just a little, she could save them. She sprinted home, twisted the dial with shaking hands. The world broke open like a mirror. The beam never fell, but something else did. A wall cracked the other way, a lantern toppled, fire erupted, more people were hurt. The tower came down anyway, only differently. Lena screamed, tried to rewind again and again. But every attempt made things worse, like time itself was rejecting her touch. Then she realized the true horror. She wasn't going back anymore. She was caught in the same midnight over and over. The tower always fell. Sometimes she was there, sometimes not. Sometimes it burned, sometimes it didn't. But midnight always came, and every time her reflection in the clock grew older. The morning never arrived. Weeks or years passed in that looping night. Lena forgot how many times she'd run to the tower, how many ways she'd failed. One day she found Henrik sitting in the attic as if he'd always been there. "You found the clock?" he said softly. Why didn't you stop me?" His hand shook as he touched the brass dial. "Because no one can. I was you. Before me, another. We all thought we could fix it, but the clock doesn't fix time. It traps those who try." She stared at the glowing hands. "Then why keep it?" He gave a tired smile. "Because someone must guard it, or the world will break far worse." Outside, the tower creaked again. Midnight loomed like a scar in the sky. The ticking filled the room, slow and patient. Time waited. So, how was it, fellas? Let me know what you think. lines spilling like water. It described a figure at the end of the hall. He didn't want to look, but his eyes disobeyed. A tall shadow stood between the shelves, too tall. Its head scraped the ceiling. The book's next sentence wrote, "Do not acknowledge it." Adrian's breath hitched. He read faster. The shadow didn't move, but it was listening. Another page turned by itself. "If you stop reading, it will speak your name, and then it will follow you." He didn't know how long he read. Words grew stranger. The ink described his heartbeat, then his thoughts. His voice grew hoarse. His hands ached. He tried to stop once, just for a second. The lamps went black again, and in the dark, something said softly, "Adrian." He screamed and kept reading. By dawn, the librarian found him sitting at the table, eyes bloodshot, lips cracked. The book lay open before him, blank as snow. He was still whispering. They say he never left the library after that. Not really. His body did, but sometimes students who stay too late swear they hear someone's voice coming from the back tables, reading words from a book that no longer exists. And if they ignore it, it says their name too. Pretty interesting, right? Don't worry, I have something else here for you. Listen. Tale 3. The Girl Who Dreamed in Colors. Luna was 16 when she stopped dreaming like other people. No faces, no places, only colors. Amber meant something warm was coming. Sapphire was sorrow. Rust was sickness. Violet. She didn't know what violet meant. She hoped she'd never have to. She told no one at first. Who would believe her? But over time, she noticed a pattern. Amber dreams always came before her father came home with pastries. Rust came before the neighbor's broken leg. It wasn't random, it was real. One evening, she dreamed of violet for the first time. Not gentle lavender, not purple skies. A storm of violet, thick and pulsing like thunder trapped in a cloud. It filled her lungs like smoke. She woke with her heart racing. 2 days later, the birds in her small town vanished overnight. The street lights began to flicker at the same time each evening. Dogs barked at empty air. She felt the violet approaching like a heartbeat. Then, in one dream, the violet storm opened like a curtain. Inside stood a boy, barefoot, glowing faintly white. "You can change it," he whispered. She woke with tears on her cheeks. Luna began reading about lucid dreaming, sketching her colors, meditating before sleep. She learned to push against her dreams, shaping colors like clay. When she changed amber into gold, her father came home earlier. When she twisted rust into rose, the neighbor recovered quickly. But violet resisted. Every night, it returned stronger. She tried weaving it with silver, bending it with light. It cracked and returned twice as dark. The boy appeared again. "It's not the storm," he said. "It's you." She realized the storm wasn't something outside. It was her fear. She had been accepted to study abroad, but she was terrified to leave her family, to let go of home. The violet was her refusal, solidified. One night, Luna stood in her dream as the storm rose around her. She painted gold in the air with her hands. The storm swallowed it. She painted green. It swallowed that too. She fell to her knees. Then she heard the boy whisper, "Paint with what hurts." She dipped her hand in her chest. In the dream, it didn't hurt. She pulled out the ache of leaving home, the grief of growing up, the love she didn't know how to keep. She painted the storm with that, and it broke. The violet softened to twilight. A soft rain fell in the dream world, warm like tears. The next morning, the town felt different. The birds returned. The flickering stopped. But the biggest change was inside her. She was no longer afraid to go. Years later, when Luna stood at the airport alone, she closed her eyes. The violet was gone. Only amber light glowed behind her eyelids, and she knew she'd painted her way out. Well, here goes the last one, my friend. Listen carefully, my friends. Tale 5, The Night Train. The platform didn't exist on any map. Leo wasn't supposed to find it, but lost boys have a way of finding lost things. He was 19, standing in the rain with nowhere to go when he heard the whistle, soft and low like the sound came from a dream. Through the mist, a silver train slid into the abandoned station. Its lights were warm. The doors opened without a sound. He stepped inside. The velvet seats were crimson. The walls smelled faintly of lavender and iron. No conductor, no passengers, only a rhythmic hum that seemed to match his heartbeat. Outside the window, nothing. No trees, no city, just drifting stars and fog like endless night. Leo Saturday. The train moved. Minutes or hours later, a girl appeared. Black coat, bare feet, holding a lantern that glowed like fireflies. "You're on the train of between," she said. "It only comes to those who've lost their way." He laughed nervously. "Then I guess it took a wrong turn." But she shook her head. "No, you did." The train passed through carriages, each one stranger than the last. In one, Leo saw himself as a musician, guitar in hand, playing to crowds. In another, he was a doctor, tired but proud. In another, he never left his small hometown, just walked the same streets forever. Each version of him looked real, lived in, possible. "The train shows you what could have been," the girl said, "but it doesn't wait." He walked carriage after carriage. Some versions were happy, some were broken. One version was old and alone, another was married with children. Each stared back at him silently, waiting for his choice. "When dawn comes," the girl whispered, "the train disappears. If you don't choose a path, it will choose for you." Fear knotted in his stomach. What if he chose wrong? What if he picked the life that led to regret? At the last carriage, he saw no version at all. Just himself in the present, rain-soaked, uncertain, breathing. Then it clicked. Every carriage was only a possibility. None of them were real yet. And real choices are made not by fate, but by walking forward. He turned to the girl. "I choose me." Her smile was faint. "Good. Few do." When he stepped off the train, the platform vanished. Dawn painted the sky in pink and gray. The world hadn't changed, but something inside him had, quietly, fiercely. And when he looked back at the horizon, he swore he saw the faint shimmer of rails fading into mist. So, this was it. Thank you so much for being with me. I'll see you in the next one. Good night and sweet dreams.